All right. Welcome to the Northern Nevada Beekeeping Association. We are in our August meeting. I think what month we're at. I am Mark. I am the social media manager. Just kind of take care of, well, the Zoom calls plus the website and Facebook. If you have questions there, I'm willing to help out. Today we have Jim taking over for us as a new president, and I'll give it over to Jim.
Okay, yep, this is the first meeting where I'm actually, I guess, supposed to talk. Previous meetings, you know, like last year at the library, if Michael quit talking for a little while, sometimes I just speak up, which is probably why I was nominated, because I like to talk about bees. So we have you know, quite a few of our other board members on. I'm looking across the line here. Stefan is our leads the mentor program and actually raises bees. He was talking about raising queens. Mark introduced himself, our media guy, and any questions you have there. I asked him one at the start of this because this is my first time with this computer. If any of you were at the last meeting, you would have known I was using an old tower that did not have a microphone or a camera, which made it a little tough. Okay, and then I see Randy down here, our treasurer. There he is, hand up, nice. Randy does a fabulous job of keeping everybody's list of you know, when they paid and, you know, all that stuff, and really appreciate all your work, Randy. I was treasurer once in another club and it's tough. Okay, and Emu, there you are, our vice president. So Emu was a little hesitant about speaking up and saying yes, because you've only been beekeeping a couple years, you said?
I've been beekeeping not even 2 years.
Okay. Well, I know that last year when we were at the library, you actually gave a presentation on making soap with honey, and that was great. So she's kind of our local chemist, and she will be giving a presentation today. So I see in the background is her extractor.
Yes, so with the soaps, I am still making soaps, and I am just giving you a heads up. I will be selling them in the Great Basin Food Co-op on Court Street starting in a month. So I will have my own bees and honey soap, and also some goat milk soap from my own goats, and some other herbal soaps. So just for you guys. And yes, today I will demonstrate how to harvest honey. And I feel like, I mean, this is only my second season to harvest honey. I feel like I'm such a newcomer, and I'm sure some of you have much more experience than I have, but I'll be happy to just make all the mistakes and you point them out to me, and then we all can learn something.
Okay. All right. So then next, let me introduce Pam. Pam G, there's a wave.
Hey, Pam.
So Pam is in charge of all of our club's equipment. And also she, I guess, got some of the plants that were started for us and gave out plants. So people would call and make an appointment to drop by her house to pick up the plants. And she keeps track of the equipment and who has it out, when it's coming back. And let's see, so what, we have 2 extractors in the club? Okay, you're still on mute, Pam. Okay, how can we unmute her?
She'll have to do it, I think.
Okay.
Okay, there.
Oh, good, yes.
Yeah. Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, we have 2 extractors, manual extractors that the club has. We have pretty much a full set of other equipment, including a hot knife, capping scraper, buckets, strainers, and the like. And there's 1 set of that. If you only need part of it, like someone's got the strainers right now, that's available also too. Just give me a text if you need it. My number's 775-233-6886. And then I just keep a list. Whoever gets to me first is first on the list, and we just rotate when it comes in and out.
Okay. So for all of you who don't have that equipment already, that's one of the great benefits of being a club member. And then I also want to, I guess, acknowledge Dan and Ginger Fenwick, who are running the Bees for Vets. Earlier, we heard about one of the vets up in the Highlands here. Michael, you know, we're talking about your bees, yeah. So thanks, Dan and Ginger, for what you're doing there.
Thank you. Thanks for making our guys welcome.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Ginger.
You're another Bee for Vet guy, huh, Jason?
Yeah, yes.
All
Yep.
right.
Great
Sweet.
program.
It's an
Thank you,
amazing
Pat, for your
program.
service.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your service.
So yeah, you'll just love it. I've got, one of those white plastic chairs that can sit outside that I have out by my hives, and sometimes I'll just go out there and have a beer with the girls. It's great. Okay, so before we get started in today's presentation, does anybody have any questions, any announcements, anything they'd like to talk about here?
Jim, I have something.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm experimenting in my hives with the flow hive. That may be heretical, but in any case, I'm doing that. I'd be interested in sharing notes with anybody else in the club who has experimented with the flow hive to see what their experience is. Mine is mixed, and I just like to exchange ideas.
Okay. I know that Monty Turner he got a couple of flow hives back, was in 2018 when the American Bee Federation's meeting was here in Reno.
Oh yeah, right.
Flow Hive actually donated a couple to our club, and Monty ended up buying them.
Fantastic.
So,
yep.
So he's
also Deborah Quackenbush runs quite a few.
Oh, Deborah does. Okay. Good.
great.
I'll check with her. Yeah. Good.
My question is, how do you get the honey out?
Oh,
The honey
yes, I
we
didn't
get off
introduce
our bees
Deborah.
is so thick it's like glue.
Well, I actually harvested here, let's see, a couple of weeks ago, and the honey flowed out very quickly. I mean, I was getting a big, larger than a quart jar out of each frame. The first one, like in 6 minutes, I think, or something like that. It came right on out. It was a very hot day, I got to say that, but the honey flowed right out just like it was supposed to. It was incredibly easy.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the trick right there, is a hot day.
Yeah.
I know that when I get ready to extract, I make sure that some of the windows are open and it's 85 plus degrees in the house, and that makes it go a little faster. And if some of the frames have been sitting for a while, because I'll only pull 1 or 2 frames out when I'm doing an inspection, kind of move everything else in toward the center. Sometimes they sit in the house and they actually cool down. So I set them in my truck for just a little while. I've made the mistake of leaving a couple in there for like 2 hours. I went out and they had just kind of melted down.
Yeah.
And across the box is like, oh. So if you're gonna warm them up, don't warm them too much. Because, you know, I'm sure my truck is probably 120 degrees in there with the windows up. And you have to leave the windows up, otherwise the bees come in. They smell the honey.
So I have a flow hive and I can't get my bees to go up in there. Like I could see that they propolized all the frames, but they're not doing nothing in it.
Well, I've got like I say, a mixed bag. One of my hives doing incredibly well. Like I say, I've extracted honey out of it, and they've almost filled it up again, and it'll be ready probably next week to tap again. The other hive, which is sitting right next to it, with the flow hive super on top, the bees are all up in there, but they're not depositing any honey in there, and I'm having difficulty as well. Have you painted the flow hives with melted beeswax?
No, I haven't.
That might help you. That worked on the one hive anyway to get them up in there. You have to take beeswax and paint it across the things.
I just might have to try that now.
Yep.
Well, maybe next month we will talk about my solar wax melter.
Yay.
And I'll show you some of my hockey pucks that I get, basically pouring melted wax into the bottom of yogurt cups.
Yeah, I do the same.
And then I went and got a muffin tray that has little designs on it. Now I'm making butterflies and dragonflies and ladybugs and a bee. There's a bee in there too.
Cool.
Well, Jim, there's one thing I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
I know one thing we've kind of briefly talked about is our bee newsletter. And I was interested if anyone else in the club was interested in helping to create that newsletter. We had any volunteers there? Because I know that'll help out the club a little bit if we have more people working on that.
Sure, I would be
I'll help
happy
with
to
that.
help. Yeah.
All right. Steve and Emu. Sweet.
Anyone else, like I said, even if you find something interesting or you want to write an article for it, let us know. We're more than happy to include it, even if it's your own experience of what you're dealing with.
How do we submit it?
Right now, it all goes through Jim, I believe.
Okay, just email
That-
Jim. Okay,
That sounds good. Yeah, I put out the one yesterday.
yes.
Michael gave me a call and he says, "Hey, are you gonna do a newsletter this month?" And it's like, oh yeah, gosh, I guess. I guess it's shifted. I got to do that. So he actually sent me a couple of old ones because I tried taking the PDF file, the Adobe Acrobat, but I didn't have the editing capability. So he sent me a couple of Microsoft Word ones. So I could edit in Word and then save as a PDF. So I actually cut and pasted in a couple pictures. So I put in the pictures of the bottles of honey, because that's kind of what today's talk's about, you know, extracting and harvesting honey. And then I transferred over the pictures for the picnic they're going to have next month. So we will have another meeting in September before the picnic. So there'll be like one last big hurrah and, you know, push the picnic. Though I just kind of hinted at it that we probably would not have any honey tasting contests like we'd had before because of the COVID thing. You know, nobody wants to be having everybody stick a toothpick in their honey. And then who knows, maybe the same with you know, the shared food or whatever. I don't know. I'm willing to take a chance on Pam's desserts.
Baklava.
Risk it.
It'll be baklava.
Yes, yes, and you know, the salads. You probably can't go wrong with salads, and I do remember really delicious um, chili verde. You know, just kind of a side dish. You know, just a little, add a little spice to my hamburger or something like that. So anyway, that everybody can be thinking about that. You know, you're welcome to bring some food, though. You know, don't be expecting that everybody's going to dig in, because you know we're still in the midst of this, and I think it's probably going to go on for another 6 months or so at least. The nice thing about bees is they don't get it. You know, you can hang out with those bees and you don't have to wear a mask. Just your veil. Okay, so that's kind of my update on the picnic. Like I say, we'll have another talk next month about that. Okay, anything else?
Actually, yes. I got a call from a friend this morning that a bear had destroyed her entire hive. So I just want to say the word. You probably know it. It's already bear winter feeding season, so beware. And she's in the middle of Reno and inside McCarran Ring.
Wow. I know Randy has had bear issues. You want to talk about that, Randy?
Well, mine seems to come in the fall more. They come down the ditches when the water shuts off, and they come down. They come down to take the fruit off the trees and honey out of the hives or the larva, whatever they can find. If you live in the Southwest, you need to put a bear fence up or they wipe you out. I'd be glad to show anybody that wants my setup here.
And how many volts is that fence?
It's a 1 joule power supply with like nine. It's a net, you know, so it does the trick.
It'll take them back to the future.
Right. Well, I guess I'm kind of lucky that I kind of live in town and only have to worry about ground squirrels and maybe a stray coyote that comes down off of Peavine. Okay, well, Emu, I guess then we're ready for your demo.
Okay, great. So I've just been doing a little bit of reading because I had some frames where they were not completely covered in wax, and I wasn't sure like when can you harvest the frame and when not. So I read a little bit and I found out that the honey should be having a water concentration less than 18%. So you want your honey to really be concentrated and not watered down. So it's just higher quality and lasts better and is not watered down, and watered down honey will not store very well and go bad. And I even read that in Germany, well, they are a little strict there, but some German beekeepers only harvest honey in the morning because sometimes during the day the bees already put a little bit of nectar in your honey cells. So what I did today, I just drew out 2 frames from a hive, and I'll show you how I open the wax caps and how I centrifuge the frames. So last year Stefan showed me how to cap off with a thin knife. So that was a very good method, and it was very messy. So I lost a lot of honey. And so this year, also Felipe recommended this. I bought a heat gun, And this works really very well. It goes very fast to open the wax caps. And you just have to make sure that you heat it up a few seconds before you start opening the caps. So I will go and get a frame here and show you how I do it. So I will heat up my heat gun a little bit, and then I hope you can see how they melt away. And let me just.
That's a real nice frame with all nice white,
Beautiful.
white wax on it.
Beautiful.
It is, yes. So I will heat that up for a few seconds.
Great. We can see it just, you know, kind of melting, melting the wax and seeing just the golden honey underneath.
And I just go over once, and there are a few cells are not gonna be open. So I also take a fork and I just poke a few, like for example around the edges where I didn't want to burn my fingers. So I just do a few pokes where I see they didn't get opened. And then I stick it in my centrifuge. I have a 2-frame centrifuge. And this is the important thing in a centrifuge. If you have ever worked with spinning something like in a lab, spinning some serum, it's very, very important that you have a counterweight. So when you have one on one side, when you have a heavy frame on one side, you need to have a second frame as a counterweight. Otherwise, your whole centrifuge will get off bounds and maybe break. So I will open a second one. So unfortunately, when I drew that frame, it got stuck on some wax and some other frames. So, but I will open this one too.
Actually, that's pretty common when you have a little burr comb at the top, or they've connected the 2 frames. When you start to pull it out, yes, it'll just kind of tear and separate, and then you've got dripping honey. So
Yeah,
I try to extract those right away.
Right. So yeah, and the way you want to just place it, I'll just show you quickly. I hope my battery doesn't run out. It's just here. One on one side, one on the other side. If you have like a 4-frame centrifuge, you could do 4 frames or 2 frames, I guess, as long as you balance from one side to the other. And then, well, then I just put the lid on and then I crank it. I don't know if I should do that now. And then later you have your spigot down there, and you put your bucket underneath, and you take a strainer. So I take a double strainer because you don't want to have like bee particles in your honey. And then I just fill it in these buckets here, and then later after a day or so, when the bubbles settled, I'll just fill it in Nutella jars. I always taught my children to eat lots of Nutella, so I have jars for honey. So yeah, that's how I basically do it, Jim. So I don't know how many of you use the heat gun or other method to open the wax caps.
I have an electric knife. Oh, Stefan's showing us a scraper that has little forks on it, and it It had, okay, I'll let you describe it there.
So this is my new favorite toy to use. The knife works. I like the knife, but I don't mind extra cappings because I'll get the honey out of that anyhow, just by letting it drain out. But this one's really nice because I can. This paddle right here will ride on the comb, and then I just pull it, pull it down, and it just pulls just the cappings right off the top. It works. I really like this one, but this is a new one I'm using, but. I have used, I don't use a heat gun, but when I'm getting tired and lazy, I'll use my torch to, just like the heat gun, to do the same thing, to open up the cappings. But.
Do you heat up that scraper before you use it?
No, you don't. I've never had to. Occasionally, brace comb will get in here, and so you have to kind of slide it out because it'll drag the cappings. But usually, especially on really pretty frames like what she was decapping there, or what Emu was decapping, I don't have any problems at all. It just pulls right across. So.
Where did you get that?
Amazon.
Ah, of course.
Yeah. Isn't it it comes from these days?
The source.
I'd like to say also that we had one of those when Trevor helped Stefan do my extraction, and my son Trevor loves it. He was very enamored with it, so it worked very well also for us.
That's better than an electric knife, you think?
But he said it was definitely better than the knife, and he had tried the hair dryer heat gun like 2 years ago. Did not like that either.
Mm-hmm.
So
the one trick that I found out with the heat gun, because that's all I use. I just pulled quite a bit of honey just last week, and the one thing I like about the one trick with the heat gun is to make sure when you're starting on your frame that if you go from the top to the bottom, all the way to the bottom, then you have some of that wax just melts down and it doesn't like clog up all of the other like all the other comb, whatever it's called, forgot. But yeah, so it doesn't clog up. So if you go from the top to the bottom, then it just stays really, really clean. And I had zero mess, like no mess to clean up with the heat gun.
So really, truly, sorry, it comes down to you have to find something that you like. And so like this is what I like right now. And then last year when I was helping Emu, the flexible knife was what I was using. So you have to just find what you like using, because what works well for you may not work well for somebody else.
Well, I could mute myself right now because it's pretty loud when I spin, and then I could show you those spun outside. So if you want to see how it looks after a heat gun spin.
So Stefan, I saw somebody using that type of scraper on the internet, and it looked great. And you're right, it just pulled off the caps. I use a great big Tupperware. Oh gosh, I don't know. It's like 80 quart or something, a very large bucket that I put all my cappings in, and then you're right, the honey drains off that. And then I take the cappings and kind of keep them separate from the old frames that I just kind of destroy into the old comb and put in my my solar wax melter, because the cappings are always, you know, a much nicer, lighter color, and I actually call that my pharmaceutical grade wax.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I use for making the hand creams. I see the other Jim on here. I know your wife Marty gave us a great recipe for making hand creams.
We have done a wonderful job with it. We kind of enjoy it. It's something to do with all that wax we end up with. We aren't making candles, but it does work well for the cream.
Great. I think oh, there's Stefan with a couple of
this one here is the cappings, and it's all really light and clear. It needs to still be strained one more time. You can see it's still a little bit dirty. But this one is my It's hard to tell on the camera, but it's probably like 3 or 4 shades darker than this one.
Mhm.
And that one is old comb.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like Emu's back and she just touched your computer and she's all sticky now.
Yes, and you can see that it's pretty well spun out. So the other frame is not so clean spun. I have to open a few more caps with a fork, but this one worked pretty well. You can see it's pretty empty here.
Right.
So I'm
So,
pretty happy about that.
I also have a manual extractor, and I do 100 cranks. So I count to 10 times. Sometimes I'll actually count to 12 10 times. So anywhere between 100 and 120 cranks per side, and then I have to flip it over and do the other side. And that does pretty well. I have to be careful if I've heated them up, because I can actually have the comb fly off, even though I have, you know, well, I use the wire embedded wax. I do have some that, you know, have the plastic foundation. They actually spin out easier, and I don't lose those. But some of the wax foundation ones, I will lose that if it's too warm. So 100 cranks per side. Then I pull them out. I set them in a box. I get another set, do another set, and then I will go out and I will put those into a hive. I sometimes just in the box, I'll pull the top off. My inner cover, I'll just take the inner cover and set it right on top of this new box I'm putting on with the spun outs in it, rather than try and shake the bees off. Put that on top right away and close it up. Sometimes I can do it in less than a minute. Bees don't get out, and all of a sudden they have a whole nother box on top of them with spun out frames that they're just still kind of dripping with honey. They love it, and within 3 days, the honeycomb that's in there is spotless. Can't even tell that there was any honey on them at all. And then I store those and use them next year when I catch a swarm. You know, already spun out comb, they're ready to go. It smells like bees. They just take right off. Okay, so Emu, you just finished spinning out a couple frames there, and then my extractor sits down low enough that it's hard to get my 5-gallon bucket underneath it. So I have a couple other 5-gallon buckets that I turn upside down. I lift my extractor up. Oh, you have it on a stool. Yes, okay. Perfect. Yeah, I have to have it up in the air so I can get that bucket under there. And then I kind of do a double straining thing. I saw that you had the metal strainer that fits right on top of your bucket. Then I have like an old spaghetti colander that's also metal that sits inside the other strainer. So the spaghetti colander catches all the big chunks and sometimes bee parts and, you know, any of the extra wax that's big enough to stay there. And then the second strainer catches the small stuff. And so I'll actually take that spaghetti colander with the big chunks of wax, put that on a cookie sheet. Well, actually, first I toss it into like a saucepan or something else and add some water and stir it around, and that kind of gets the wax broken up a little bit rather than in big chunks, and it dissolves the honey there. And then I just pour that whole mix onto a cookie sheet and set it out the far side of the yard, away from any neighbors, away from any of the hives, because I don't want to cause robbing. But I'll go out there, and that cookie sheet is just covered in bees, just sucking up all the rest of that, cleaning the wax, and that makes my wax end nice and clean for melting down. So kind of the ultimate honey recycling there, giving it back to the bees, you know, the little bit that comes off of the process of extraction.
Jim, I have a quick question for you, sir.
Okay.
My strainer comes with 2 levels. Should I be putting a colander in between? Is that what you're saying?
Okay. I have the plastic ones that fit right on the top of the bucket. So I don't have the double one that you do, which is why I use the colander.
Okay.
This is Pam. We have, excuse me, we have the strainers that have the double. The top part of the strainer is the large mesh, which gets the big bee parts and stuff. And then it fits into a smaller one that has a much smaller mesh, and that'll catch your little pieces. I just use that. I don't have to use another strainer of anything.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I also do. So there's this double strainer. This, as Pam said, this is like a rough grade, and then this is a very small one. And the rough grade gets most of the honey particles, like the caps and the tops, and the small strainer only gets like the very last particles, and the honey comes out very clean, I have to say. Yeah.
That's right. There's some of mine. So I bought these bottles online. I think it was like 380 bottles or something, and you know, the box was 3 feet by 3 feet. You know, it was pretty big. And then I had to buy the caps separate, and then it was like 400 caps. So you don't get the same number of caps that you get bottles, which was kind of interesting. But anyway, I also like using glass jars. So Pam had a bunch of glass jars that she set out there for club members. And I also like the fact that you have all the Nutella bottles. That's a nice shaped bottle also.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of prefer the glass jars just because they're more recyclable. I know that some of the people I talk to like the squeeze plastic ones, and I've actually gotten a couple of them to rinse them out well and bring them back, and I refill them for them. But you know, you definitely don't get the recycling as much with plastic as you do with the glass jars.
Last year, Michael was showing how to fill honey into straws and then seal them with heat.
Yes, that was interesting. Yeah, he had a seal-a-meal machine which has a wire that when you press it, it heats the wire really fast. And I think he did like 5 straws at a time with a little syringe and squirted in his honey. And those are fabulous for kids, or for going to, you know, one of the events that we used to go to, like the Whole Earth Festival or the Lavender and Honey Festival. You know, giving out a little straw of honey to kids as they come by. They love that.
Hey Jim, where were you able to actually find bottles and caps? I ended up having to go to a main supplier, not one of the big ones. Like Man Lake had trouble getting bottles and caps, and same with the Don.
Ah, okay. So actually, I've had those bottles now at least a year, So it's been a while since I've ordered them. But
In the past, I'd say in the past, I've used a company called Berlin Packaging. They have a warehouse in town and get a lot of glass bottles from them. You used to be able to pick them up in store, but with the COVID stuff, it's been a little different.
Yeah.
They stopped carrying, Mark. So they stopped carrying that company. They stopped carrying the bee, like all the jars that's essentially for putting bees and stuff like that. I'm trying to work with them right now, see if I can get them to resupply that warehouse with them, and then see, like, advertise it in the club to see if people are interested in getting from them. So
Yeah, when I bought mine last was early COVID, so they weren't doing any pickups. I just had to have them shipped.
I just did a trip to the Dant a few days ago and picked up a whole bunch.
Oh, over in Chico?
Yep. Yeah, just did a trip over there, pick up a whole bunch of glass jars.
Yeah, I was finally able to get stuff. It just took a really long time, and I wasn't able to go through. I mean, they may have them now, but when I was harvesting and bottling, and I'm buying boxes at a time, the big, 500 count boxes at a time, and nobody had them. So
yeah, same here.
Yeah.
So I went down and bought some half-gallon sizes. I think you can get either 4 or 6, ball or cur half-gallon. And those work really well for future partitioning out into smaller bottles. Because I only have a certain number of food grade white 5-gallon buckets. And, I try to keep my harvest kind of divided. So I know that, this harvest was a spring harvest that came out of this area. Or, this harvest was, whatever. And so I'll only get, 2 gallons in a 5-gallon bucket. And then that's all the frames I have of that particular type of honey. So then I've got to pour it out before I can use that bucket again. And a lot of times I'm not ready to actually put them in, little 1-pound jars. So I'll just put them in the half-gallons. And I think I have a 3-gallon jugs that I use. So the nice thing about the glass is that you can heat them up, and they heat well, and as long as you stir them and make sure the lid's off, because as they start to heat up, the honey expands. I made that mistake several years ago where I didn't undo the lid when I put it in the double boiler. I cracked the bottom of the jar. Top of the jar looked just fine, and then I looked down in there, and all of a sudden my hot water, just nothing but honey. So they went a quart of honey. But, I just kind of stirred it up and put it on a cookie sheet and set it outside. And they thought it was the best nectar ever. Stored it away again.
Jim, for heating up crystallized honey, I don't know how many people have one of these sous vide machines, but I have one of them. It's like an immersion heater, essentially, with a very precise temperature control, and you can set that thing to like 120 degrees or something in a pan of water, and you can put plastic or whatever you need in there, and it's not going to get it too hot, and it doesn't overheat the honey or anything like that. It's the perfect way to restore crystallized honey. I see Steph got one.
yeah, that works really good. And you can even do it with your 5-gallon buckets when they crystallize, if you have a big enough bucket to put them in.
Oh yeah, right. You could do it with a swimming pool, if you got enough time.
Yeah. It takes about 12 hours to decrystallize a 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah.
Just in case anybody's curious.
So I have actually had a 5-gallon bucket crystallize on me over winter.
Wow.
Where it's sitting around. So spring comes, I have some old single pane windows, which is actually what I use for my solar, wax melter. And I just take that window and I just set it on top of the bucket. And so the sun gets in there, it warms it up, bees can't get in, it's sitting out in the sun. Or the other thing is I put the bucket in my truck. I've been driving around pretty much all summer with a bucket in my truck that changes every now and then. And I went to visit somebody, and they know I'm a beekeeper, and they said, "Well, do you have any honey?" I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "Do you have a jar?" And they said, "What?" Well, I said, "Just go get a jar and bring me a big spoon." Well, I just got the bucket out of the truck and popped the top and put their jar and just dipped it in. Said, "Here you go."
Very cool.
So yeah, beekeepers, in the springtime, you'll be traveling around with your swarm kit. Okay, so in the spring we'll talk about what you need to put in your car for a swarm kit. And then later in the summer, you travel around with 5-gallon buckets of honey. That's because I don't have kids, it's like I can do that. I know, Emu, your boys there would probably end up wrestling over the top of the 5-gallon bucket and tipping it over, and then all of a sudden your whole back seat's sticky.
They would probably start eating it, and I don't notice, and then they're hyper, and no. I'll drop some Legos in there.
Okay. Oh, and then one other thing that has happened to me, but I heard about this at one of the meetings, that you can always tell a beekeeper if you see somebody driving down the road and their truck's on fire, or you think it's on fire. You just see smoke coming out of the back. Yeah, I've had somebody pull up next to me and say, your camper back there is smoking pretty bad. And it's just because, I didn't really put the smoker out, and I think I kind of hung it on the side, because it has that little hook. I hung it on the side of a wooden box so it wouldn't roll around or anything, because I wasn't in a place where I could actually dump out the lit, stuff that was in it. And I probably didn't have any water to pour in to put it out. So.
The arrow boxes.
Jim?
Oh yeah, hi Marty.
It's Marty. Beekeepers, I have found, are very ingenious people, and they find things to use that may not be beekeeper approved. And Jim and I have found that if you take a basket like you would use for deep frying, it makes a really good way to throw your wax into the basket and let it drain into a bucket, like as if you put French fryers into a deep frying basket. And also the big, I think they're 11 by 17 cookie sheets, the industrial size ones. Mm-hmm. They work really well for tops and bottoms over bee boxes or hive boxes when you're trying to you knock the bees out, but you need to sort of seal them quickly to move them to where you're extracting. And we've gotten them at the used restaurant supply store.
On Evans.
They're over on Evans now, between like 5th and 6th Street. And they have a ton of those, and I think they're about $3 a piece. And they're used, so you kind of have to put a little elbow grease in to clean them up, but they work really, really well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That works well for me. I do the same thing. Yep.
Oh, and then Jim puts his smoker, when he's done with it, locks it in an ammo box and puts it in the back of the truck.
Yeah,
And then it won't hurt anything
right.
because it just kind of shuts it off. Those are
And
my good
it's
tips for the day.
great. And it's steel, and you know, it's not going to burn it or anything.
Right.
I
Right.
do like that cookie sheet idea, because yes, when I'm going through a hive, you know, up looking through the supers, I usually only pull off 2 or 3 of the frames in there, because the ones out further toward the sides aren't all finished yet. You know, I just want to get something. I try to get it when it's 95% capped, because I believe that if it's not capped yet, it's not honey. It's still nectar, and it's still evaporating. So as soon as they get it all capped, you know, 95%, you got to pull it, and then kind of like emu had the issue there. As you pull it, you end up, you know, breaking some of the seals, bumping against, and of course the bees just want to jump on that right away. So I always have to have another box around, and those cookie sheets are a great idea, because they're light enough. They're not like some of my my top covers. You know, I can pick them up
Well,
real
and the
fast,
nice,
drop it in the box, put the cookie sheet back on, keep looking, find another frame or 2.
Yes.
and they in a way make it easier to handle the box. If you have a cookie sheet on the bottom, you've got your deep or your medium super, shove your frames in, throw a cookie sheet on the top. It's pretty easy to move it around. And it keeps, and they're about 1 inch deep, so it holds quite a bit of dripped honey in it, and you don't have it everywhere.
And from the retired military guy, make sure that your ammo's out of your ammo box before you put that smoker in there, okay?
Good point.
Yeah.
Right.
I saw a question from someone down there how we get the bees from the frames. So I didn't show that how I got the frames out of my hive. So I used to have a bee exit. It's like a queen excluder. It's a little thicker. It's like a one-way street for bees where they can go down, but they cannot go up. And you put that in between your supers that you want to harvest and the bottom 1 or 2 days before you want to harvest the honey. But I had one, but it broke because I had a bear destroy it. And so what I do now, I just draw my frames and I brush them. I just take my brush and I just brush them off into the box. And it's good when it's a little windy, so they just fly off and don't sting me. And then I have a separate box like a few yards away. And then I just take one frame by frame, pull it up, brush it off, put it in a second box, and that's the box I bring then in my kitchen. It's a little work, but and these one-way bee excluders are a very elegant method to get rid of bees.
I'm never that coordinated where I can think 2 days in advance. It's like, oh, today I'm doing it. So I kind of do like you. I just pull it up, I hold it, and I give it a really sharp shake. And that drops a lot of the bees off. And sometimes I have to shake it, you know, 7 or 8 times. And I've kind of quit using the brush because that's just one more thing I have to grab. Though every now and then, if there's like 5 or 6 bees left on there, I'll use my fingernail and I'll just give them a little flick, you know, kind of move on, and they'll either fly off or I'll kind of flick them off onto the frames down in the box.
And by the way, oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I use a fume board to do mine, and I use the cookie sheet deal as well. And I always wind up with a few bees left in there when I move them like that. So I take the sandwich of the cookie sheet and the super and another cookie sheet, take that sandwich to another location near where I'm going to bring it into the kitchen, and then I prop the thing, prop the super up with a sticker or something, you know, an inch or half an inch where the bees can get out the few that are left in there that they can fly out, and then I bring the frames in as I need them and extract them from that.
Yeah. And just because Jim said he shakes the bees off, so what you also can do when you have a frame where not all the cells are capped and you're not sure is that honey ripe or not, you can just also flick it and shake it, and if no honey is dripping out, then the honey is ready to harvest. But if you have honey that has a high water concentration and that is mostly nectar, it will drip out. So you give it like a shake, and then you see whether your honey is ripe or not to harvest.
Great point. Yes. All right.
And that's how I have to do it. I've got a horizontal hive, so I don't have supers. So that's, you know, I've got some unique struggles.
Right. The top bar hives are quite a bit more difficult. You won't be using an extractor. You'll be using the crush and strain method.
That's what I do. Yeah.
And one other thing too, for people who are wanting to know about moisture content, go on Amazon and get a honey refractometer. They're only about 25 bucks. And then you can check your moisture content pretty easy. We found uncapped honey in our hives at 14%.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, like I said, our
ready.
honey tends to be glue.
Yeah,
So,
it's true. Yep.
So this year when I was harvesting honey, because I couldn't get enough equipment in time, I was harvesting stuff that wasn't capped. And everything I pulled, I was averaging 13 to 16% humidity. And I, just like what Dan was saying, you just get one of these refractometers. They work really well. And you just put a little bit of honey on there. And then you can hold up to the light, look through there, and it'll tell you the percentage of moisture content that's in there. And in Nevada, the honey is so dry that it's, I mean, if you can't shake it out, it's good. So just like Eva was saying, if you can't shake it, it's good. So.
Well, so Deborah, I see that you've joined.
Yes, my apologies being late. I had some work things to take care of.
Oh, no problem. So Deborah is also on the board, and she's our event coordinator. So this year, some of the events have been more virtual, I guess, but you know, you're still getting questions from schools and that type of stuff.
Yeah, we're still getting questions, so I'm fielding those questions. Also answering questions on Facebook as well as private messenger. So any questions, just give me a holler. I'd be more than happy to help and offer my assistance.
I appreciate you doing that. I'm not on Facebook, and I'm not real good at checking messages. So I'm not going to be the Facebook or the media guy. Thanks again, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Well, I guess I have a question about back to the crystallized honey. We harvested super about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months, and it ran perfect. It strained perfect. We bottled it perfect. About a week and a half later, maybe 2 weeks, it crystallized, all of it.
Yeah, so that is a problem with Nevada honey. As you're talking about the moisture content, it's been very common. I've seen that a lot. Is our honey is just so dry that it crystallizes quickly.
Yeah.
And
it just,
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. It also just depends on the honey. Some honey is, so I have honey from 2017 that hasn't crystallized yet, but I have stuff that I've harvested this year that is hard as rock. So
right.
It just depends on the honey.
Okay.
And that is kind of caused by the type of nectar that they get. Some nectars are higher in glucose, and I think it's the glucose that causes the crystallization. I'm trying to remember, but there's at least like 20 different types of sugars that can be in honey. You know, from just a regular simple sugar to a combination, like our white sugar, it is actually a combination of like glucose, fructose, or something. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what Stefan was talking about. Depending on the year and what's blooming and where they go, you either get it crystallized or not.
Yeah, because we have some from last year that's perfect. And then this year's, it was really funny. We just set it out in the sun in the 2.5 gallon bucket, set it out in the backyard on the sand there, and it doesn't take it long.
Oh, it doesn't. Yeah, it changes right back. Like, that's what I tell people. If their honey starts to crystallize, you know, they can put it in a double boiler, but these plastic jars, they will actually deform a little bit if the double boiler is too hot. So I say just put it on the dash of your car. Yeah. And this one's actually been sitting in the house, and you know, I can see just a little bit of crystallization in there, but it's still pretty clear.
Another way that you can decrystallize it is use a crock pot. Put a towel in the bottom of the crock pot, set it on real low, and stick your bottles into that, and they can set for an hour or two, and will decrystallize that way also.
Ah, I never thought of that.
Yeah, it works really nicely.
Okay. Great.
Crock pot, that'll work.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then I'll feel good about having that crock pot, because otherwise it sits around and gets used, you know, once every 4 months or something.
Jim, a heating pad works well too.
Oh, mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
I had some of those plastic bottles all crystallized, so I very carefully wrapped them in a heating pad on low, set the timer to remind me to look at them, because the first one I didn't, and I had a really sticky mess. But a heating pad will heat them back up.
Any other comments? Any ideas for future meetings?
Well, I think the issue of mites is always current. I mean, dealing with mites.
That's right. This is, I'm going to be, actually I am treating right now. I'm using the oxalic shop towels. I just pulled an inspection board today, and they've been chewing that up. There's all kinds of little fuzzy blue stuff at the bottom. And there's another one that I'm going to use oxalic drip on. So I made up a batch of the oxalic drip and have, you know, some syringes. So I'll be putting my 5 mils down each opening between frames there. And then once I finish the honey, so I usually pull my last honey mid-September, and I get ready to winterize. So I like to be winterized by October. That might be a little late, especially if you're up in the highlands, you know. But in town here, I don't get the breezes, and it's a little more protected. So I can actually wait to finish my winterization by 1st of October. So we'll be talking about that. You know, what you need to do to winterize. That's when I'm going to be doing my last mite treatment, and I'll probably use you know, one of the commercial strips, the thymol strips.
I just
Yeah,
want
I
to
had
say,
some unique challenges with my box with regard to winterization. Ginger came up and helped me and gave me some ideas. And like I say, I've got a horizontal box. So I pulled out all the empty frames. I got cotton laundry bags from Amazon, great big bags. And I filled them with wood chips and put those inside to fill the empty space on either
great.
side. And then used actually cut drip line to plug, because I've got 5 ports in the front. So we plugged that and then put a mouse guard partially over the center hole. And that worked real well for me. So, as Ginger would say, we had to do a little MacGyvering on it,
Okay, all right.
The only thing I wanted to say about oxalic acid treatment now is that oxalic acid cannot penetrate the wax caps. So if you have still capped brood and you treat with oxalic acid, you're not gonna get the full benefit of the drug because it can mostly not penetrate to the brood that is still capped and that carries the actual mites in the capped cells. So if you do oxalic acid when you still have capped brood, you might want to do a second treatment after you have no brood anymore.
Perfect, yes. And that's why knowing the calendar of, how long it takes for a brood to hatch, and how, the difference between how long it takes a queen to hatch versus the worker bees, or the drones. So at this time of year, hopefully the queen has kind of decided she doesn't need quite as many drones. There's still some drones around. Kind of before we got started, I was talking about trying to put together a little box, take one of my 5-frame new boxes and put some frames in it that have brand new laid eggs, and try and start my own queens, because I do have a box that I'm thinking my queen is failing. The brood pattern wasn't too good, but then Stefan said, check it out again before I actually, kill that queen and try and requeen, because they had kind of stopped laying as much when the weather got so hot a couple weeks ago. So that could explain part of my my spotty brood pattern that I have in there. But that's a real good point, that the oxalic acid does not penetrate into the cells. For that, I'd need to use formic acid, which has that vapor, but then you can't use that when it's over 90 degrees. And I'm thinking the whole rest of this month and probably into the first week or 2 of September, we're going to have some 90s or more.
It's very possible. We used the hop guard strips in July just to knock down the mites, because it can be used with honey on legally. And then we will do 3 weeks of oxalic acid vaporization treatments starting probably the last weekend of this month, after we've got the honey, any honey we're going to harvest off of them.
All right. I did put that in the newsletter that you really do have to watch those mites and treat, otherwise it's very likely your hive won't survive over the winter. So Stefan has done some great demos of how to do the alcohol wash and count the mites. But that was back when we were meeting at the library, and he could actually demo it right. Well, not with live bees, of course. We wouldn't want live bees flying around in the library room there. But talked about using the wash pan and just tossing all the bees in there, and then the foragers will fly out, and all the nurse bees, which are the ones that are going to have the mites on them, are the ones you check. So what is it? cup of bees contains essentially 300. And
I think it's half a cup of bees.
Half a
half a
cup.
cup.
300.
Okay, half a cup. All right.
If you could figure out how to stream from just a cell phone, if you wanted to come out and do a demo in our apiary on a Saturday, we could probably arrange that
Mm.
Oh, that'd be good.
if people wanted to watch.
That'd be real
So
cool.
between Stefan and whoever here, if you can sort out how to do that, you'd be welcome.
Yeah, that's easy enough to do.
I'm game.
Okay. Yeah, drop me an email, or Jim's got my email address, so I sent him an email earlier today, so he's got it.
Right, about coming out and talking about the whole process.
Yeah, see if we get you to come out and talk to our guys a little bit, because you do stuff we don't, like you actually successfully raise queens. We're under 50% on success in our apiary. I think the birds get them, but
Yeah.
it's really hard for us to demo how to do that when we can't get them back. So if somebody's successful at it can come talk to them, that'd be great. And just give them kind of a different view of how to do it. We have things that we know work for us, but if there's 50 beekeepers around, there's 75 ways to do things. So
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to get a chance to expose them to some more. So any of the rest of you too, if Stefan wanted to come out and talk one day or whatever, anybody else that's been doing it for a while, you'd be welcome. Just let me know.
Okay. Well, any other comments, ideas? Thanks, Steve, for bringing up the mite treatment. That,
Yeah,
you know, we almost have to talk about that every single meeting,
pretty much. Yeah.
just because it is so important.
Just to chime in, Jim, I've been doing a couple of oxalic acid vaporization treatments for people who have contacted me. So if anybody's out there that's still interested, let me know. This is the time to do it. So I try to space the fumigation about every 11 days, at least 3 treatments if possible, if your mite load is high. So again, if you need that service, let me know.
That's right. You've got the equipment and the wand and all that stuff. Right. Okay, well, I can't really think of anything else.
Jim,
Want to thank you, Emu, for you know, setting up your kitchen. I know that it's, you know, it's a bit of work, you know, to get the extractor in there and, you know, all the stuff. And you had jars of honey there in the background that looked really nice.
Yeah, no problem. You're welcome.
Piece of trivia for everybody. National Honeybee Day is the 15th of this month, so that's this weekend. So you can keep that in mind as you go visit your girls this weekend. Wish them a National Honeybee Day greeting.
Okay.
Yay.
Jim, did you cover any picnic events?
I did mention that it's coming up, and I mentioned that we probably won't do a honey tasting because of the whole COVID thing. But actually, you're the one that's setting it all up. So do you want to give us an update?
Well, depending on how many show, we'll try to do possibly the bee bingo, you know, COVID style. So we'll keep people separate, you know, try to have a little bit of fun and just enjoy each other's company. But if anybody wants to bring something special, you know, please feel free. Or if you want to help volunteer to cook, I know there's a few of us that cook every year. Please let me know.
Okay. And I did mention that next month's meeting will be right before the picnic. So what we'll try and do is kind of get a count, because then Deborah has to go and buy all the hot dogs, hamburgers, buns, condiments, you know, all that stuff. So we don't want to buy too much, and then we we want to make sure that we have enough for everybody, because some of us like seconds.
Definitely.
Okay, yep. So that I believe is September 19th down at Washoe Lake. We've had it there in the past, and it's a nice place. And, you know,
If we don't have a honey tasting contest, how am I gonna try to win back my title of first place honey?
oh yeah. Well, okay. So you can bring it. I'm thinking that, you know, for club liability, we should not say we're having one. But if you want to walk around and say, well, here, taste mine. Isn't this the best? You'd vote for this one, right?
Stefan, I think I'm going to have you beat this year.
I don't know. I got some good ones this year.
Oh no, I'm in contention.
Sounds like a challenge.
Okay, like I showed you, isn't that gorgeous?
That's prettier.
That's pretty. All right. Oh, Stefan, you went and got yours. Yours is lighter.
Yeah.
Really light.
It's dark like that too.
Incredibly light. Wow.
Huh.
Tastes like lemons.
It's
Okay.
very good. I've had it.
Oh, all right. We see yours, Vicky. All right. I'm seeing the little panda or the bears on it. Okay. Labels. We could actually talk about that. Oh, all right. There we go. Nice. Oh, okay. Steve, I see yours up there. Yeah. Okay, so labels. Basically, a label has to have your location, a phone number to get a hold of you, and, you know, describe the honey. I have wildflower honey on mine because I have no idea where they go or what they're picking up. You know, some people who are like Michael's that was out there in Fallon, he might be right next to an alfalfa field. And that's, you know, 90% of what the bees are collecting, just alfalfa. So he could actually call his alfalfa. In fact, I think you just happen to have the predominant
51%.
crop.
51% of it has to be like alfalfa, if you're going to call it alfalfa honey.
Okay.
And so it doesn't have to have a phone number on the label. It just has to have a means of contact. So like an email address or a website, something like that would work also if you're doing that.
Right, if you're more tech savvy than me.
Jim, are you going to have any more of the licorice flavor honey?
Oh, that was because there was some fennel.
Yes, that was
Yes.
excellent. My wife went crazy for that. She loves licorice, so she really liked that.
Okay, actually that was some hives that I have over at this little 94-year-old Portuguese lady in Sacramento.
Okay.
So she had fennel, and then she also had leeks, which are kind of a cross between garlic and onion. And I hope that the bees weren't collecting, you know, the garlic or the leek flowers. Yeah, I hope they just kind of stayed with the fennel. And then she had peach trees and a few other things.
Well, that was excellent honey.
Good, well, a good point that, you know, what your bees collect nectar from is going to flavor your honey and also color it and cause it to either crystallize or not. So I know that Michael had talked about the club still has some seeds left for planting. A little late to plant now because, you know, we're almost getting toward fall. but we'll have some seeds for next spring for people to plant stuff. I know we've got some alfalfa, some of the, was it saffron?
Psyllium.
Okay, there you go. I'll rely on others to actually know what we have. But anyway, we'll have some seeds available for members to plant. And of course, you know, all of these seeds are guaranteed to get my little joke there about trying to plant a 1.5 pounds of seeds and get nothing. Yikes. Okay, so yeah, we can't guarantee your seeds will actually sprout and give you wonderful nectar for your bees. But everybody gets to try.
Yeah, I think the snow on the 7th of June might have had something to do with it.
Okay, yeah. Well, there you go. That's what you get for living in the Highlands there.
That's what I get.
I think we actually had some here in town, but it was just, you know, a dusting. There wasn't really enough to make a snowball with. All right. Well, I see Michael H. on here. Still muted. Is that Michael Hammerski?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, hi, past president.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Mike.
It's been a pretty informative meeting. I'm trying to figure out how to open my camera on my computer, but I've been battling that for about 30 minutes. So it's good to see all. It's good to see all you guys and gals, and looking forward to the picnic for sure.
All right. So the last meeting, you actually signed in from the north coast of California, Petrolia, or up by Eureka or
Petrolia.
something.
Yeah, in a yurt, in a permaculture farm. It was very, very exciting place. Everything was in bloom. Just everything was like fruiting and blooming, and it was like the Garden of Eden.
Okay, as opposed to you know, somewhat drier conditions here in northern Nevada.
I just put about 2,000 gallons of water on my trees. They get 60 inches of precipitation a year in Petrolia, so it's a little bit of a difference.
I think I saw on the news the other night that we'd had less than 2 inches so far this year. It's like 1.57 or something.
Yeah, just the opposite of here. They can grow anything there. There was figs on the trees and plums and peaches and apricots, and I was so envious. But you know, it's California, so easy to grow. Yeah, the bees, they produce honeydew there. It's a mixture of you know, flower nectar and aphid juice. It's really dark. It's dark like tar, yeah. Real dark coffee looking. What do you think it tasted like, Stefan?
Sorry, what was that? I was looking up the rules for Felipe for labeling. What was your question?
What do you think that honeydew from the honeydew honey from Petrolia tasted like? Like molasses?
Yeah. Yeah, it was really gross. I don't even know how to describe it. It was like mildewed honey.
Yeah. And people pay $20 a pint, $13 a pound for it there. They love it. Yeah. Wow. And Stefan, you do have some awesome honey this year. I agree. You're in contention for the winner, but we didn't sample any of my honey on Saturday to compare, did we? From this year.
Not from this year. No.
Yeah. That was my big mistake. Emo, do you have some good tasting honey this year?
I think I do. It tastes very blossomy because I'm here at Toyabe National Forest. I think I have a lot of sagebrush, rabbitbrush, antelope brush. So I think it's good for people with allergies.
Yeah, your place is really amazing. Yeah, a lot of water for sure. All right, guys. Well, you're doing an awesome job, Jim and Emu and everybody else. Yeah, I really appreciate the hard work, and the club's going in the right direction, that's for sure.
So as we were speaking here, I decided to make a change for our picnic. We're going to send out a link to a site called signup.com. And on there, you'll be able to register yourself and who's going to attend the picnic with you. So we'll know how many people are attending. That helps us follow the number of laws, whatever they may be at that time. And we can see who's coming that way.
Okay. Does it also have the ability to say, you know, hamburger, hot dog, or veggie burger?
Yes. We could add that on there, or we could say
Okay.
comment if you want something, or we could add that into it.
I'm a big fan of potato salad. I will eat potato salad if somebody brings it. Okay, all right, there we go. That was my pitch.
I thought you would make it.
Because otherwise, I go down and I buy the little bucket of potato salad, and you know, it's like, never has enough garlic in it for me. Or onions. All right. Yes, picnic coming up. Great. Thanks, Mark. That's a great idea of getting a little sign up thing going. So that'll make it easy for everybody.
Yeah, Jim, I'll send that link to you so you can send it out to all the members, and we can also post it on the Facebook page as well.
Okay. All right, yeah, so I may actually, well, since the picnic's the 19th, I'll try to get the newsletter out like at the first of the month. And Steve and Emu, thanks for volunteering to help with it, you know, so, you know, if you guys find an article or even a picture that we can put in there. Like I said, I went and found that picture of bottled honey that looked kind of nice. So I figured that kind of went with the theme this month. All right, I can't think of anything else. Is it time to go get a beer?
It is. Thank you for that. I mean, we appreciate everyone who attended tonight. Again, if you have questions, email them in, hit us up on Facebook, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Enjoyed my first meeting.
All right.
Another thing you can do with that crystallized honey is just make mead out of it. And then
That works.
Another good topic for a future meeting would be making creamed honey.
I don't know anything about it, so we'll get a volunteer to present on that one.
Okay.
All right, well, then I guess, Mark, I'll let you sign us off, or does everybody just, oh, I see a little leave button down here. All I have to do is press that and I'm gone, huh?